Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of High Velocity Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today on the show, we have Michael Falato with Full Throttle Falato Leads. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Lee. How you doing?
I am doing well. I'm so excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us about your firm. How you serving folks?
Basically, folks spend way too much time hunting and hiring SDRs and lead gen approaches, and they don't necessarily get enough leads, or they damage their domain or their LinkedIn profile. So I basically serve up top of funnel qualified leads using email, LinkedIn automation, and roundtables.
So what's your backstory? How'd you get into this line of work?
I was working as a software salesperson the last 25 years. Also, I have a background in the Air Force Reserve, and always been kind of hunting and gathering and selling the whole full cycle. And I've always been better at hunting than anybody else. So I basically started my own lead gen company the last couple of years and grew it from 0 to about 650 the first year and $1 million last year. So it's been on hyper growth mode. Took a couple other companies from 250 to 2.8 million in 1 year and helped them raise their Series A. So I have a really good experience and background in just helping startups and companies that don't necessarily know how to build their top of funnel or realize that they should be focusing on closing and selling, not on hunting.
So since you've kind of gone through the whole process yourself, and what are some of the mistakes that folks make when they are trying to build out a funnel like you described?
Well, they'll hire SDRs, and they're usually out of college, so they're a lot of turnover, and they don't know what they're doing yet, unfortunately, because they're just starting. They're using HubSpot or other things like Outreach, and they're using their Gmail and Office 365 to send emails. Those tools are great, but if you're using your own domain, you're going to ruin your domain, ruin your deliverability. And if you don't have an email engineer that understands how to deliver these emails at bulk, but personalized bulk, then it's a really bad idea. And I actually have done the wrong things that I can basically shorten your time so you don't have to do those yourself. So they're doing that a lot. They're also using automation tools for LinkedIn that get their LinkedIn profile banned or penalized or suspended. You know, I'm sending out 200, 300 invites a day on LinkedIn or emails, doing 20, 30, 40,000 emails a month and not damaging domains or LinkedIn. So I have a repeatable and scalable process that works.
Now, one of the challenges for a lot of folks when they have an idea of they don't have a clear idea of who that ideal client is, and they market to maybe too broad a group. Do you help kind of hone in on who that ideal target is so they can, get some low-hanging fruit so they get some wins right away?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks, especially when they're starting out and getting through the MVP stage or getting just to their go-to-market, they just raised a Series A or seed round. They're not for sure what their ICP is sometimes. And if you look at what I do is I deliver emails in bulk, but personalized. So they're good A/B test and figure out what works, what doesn't. And we reinforce the good and we stop doing what's not resonating. So I definitely help with that because otherwise there's a lot of market research that is not real world and they're guessing what their ICP is, especially if they're startups. So yeah, stats tell everything. And that's why Moneyball and all these analytics companies are popping up because you got to do what the stats tell you, not what the heart and mind tell you all the time.
Now, is it something that, walk me through what happens? Somebody says, you know what, Michael, I'm in. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. I got this great thing. This is who we think the ideal customer is, but I need your expertise to really hone in on the right person and double down when you find them. So how do you help me kind of get started to maximize kind of the value I'd get out of your firm?
Well, there's a startup guide that I built because I get that question a lot. Like, what's your ICP? What's your personas? What's your do not contact list? Whose LinkedIn profiles do you want to automate? What's your offering? I always say, listen, you got to make the emails on LinkedIn about them. Who cares? So what? Why are you bugging me? What are you going to do for me? How are you going to save my job? And what's the fear of missing out? If it doesn't attach to your brain or your heart, it's not going to get people to book a meeting. Stop selling features and functions and buttons and start selling can I figure out a way to help you? Be prescriptive, be a doctor, be an investigator, ask 4 to 5 questions deep. And then you'll find a solution that will fit their budget and fit their needs. Because realistically, doing this internally, it's not getting the same type of people. And just the data alone on ZoomInfo or some other platform, it's 50 cents to $1. So you're going to pay more than that just for data and not have a good way to deliver it through automation that's not going to hurt your domain or your LinkedIn. So you leave the expertise to the experts, just like you would do for anything else in your life. Most people think they can just go out there and hunt themselves, and it's not the best way of doing it. Subject matter experts should be selling, not hunting, pressing buttons all day and trying to figure out how to automate.
Now, is this something that is done for you, done with you? How does it work?
Done for you, but I take the partner approach. Like, let's talk about your messaging, your ICP, your personas. Have a week to 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we have a meeting and we talk about strategy. So I don't like being left alone and saying, this is what I want to do, go for it, because things change and we always got to be able to adapt and overcome. So it's really more of a joint partnership. But once we get it set up, automation bots, they don't get tired. They don't complain. They don't want to have their next job as the AE. It's one of those things where it's repeatable and scalable and way faster for me to do it for them and cheaper than doing it internally and trying to figure out. I mean, people spend millions of dollars on an SDR team, on a demand gen specialist, a demand gen manager. And I've been at companies. I don't want to name them to call them out, but they've ruined their domains and had to change domains. They're using HubSpot and using Gmail, and they're getting their emails shut down because it's not made to send mass emails that are not scrubbed. There's a lot of people moving around, so emails get bad. You got to know what you're doing and how you're doing it and have a strategy. Otherwise, you're just throwing stuff at the wall.
Now, so you're still a believer in email marketing. You're still a believer in LinkedIn marketing, that these haven't been played out. They haven't been too kind of saturated by so many of the scammers and spammers.
Yeah, you gotta think what's in it for them. If you're gonna send a LinkedIn message and then the next message is, here's what we do, here's everything about us, it's gonna scare people away. You gotta look at it as a dating approach. Let's introduce myself. How are you doing? Look at their background. Once they connect, it goes off the automation, and then it's up to that person to kind of find some common ground. That's the same thing you want to do on email and LinkedIn. It automates to get the door open, and then the subject matter expert or the person at the company should kind of take over their messaging. So you have to do enough to get through the noise is kind of what I heard you ask. And if you don't do that, you're not going to get, a plate appearance. So you got to get up to bat, to have a chance to get a single or double. And that's what I really provide, is that chance to get up to bat and get a single or double. And it takes time and effort and cost of database to do that. And if you don't know how to deliver that, then you're basically going too slow. You're not going to get through the noise on email and LinkedIn. Another thing that I've added was the roundtable approach, where you have everybody come on and talk about what they do, how they do it, why they do it, what's their give and what's their take. The whole idea there is to kind of just spread knowledge, and then it's brought to you by that company that I'm helping. And so they kind of get leads from that too. It's more of a white paper thought leadership approach, roundtable approach.
Now, do I have to have a big list to begin with, or is that some of the services you provide is kind of the way and the group to communicate with?
No, there's 250 million people I have in my database, which is similar to like a ZoomInfo. And then LinkedIn has 750 million people at least. So there's a billion people I can reach out to. So I just focus on B2B for my particular approach. Outreach. I don't do B2C. But if they're on LinkedIn, there's pretty good chance that we could find them. If you're looking to sell like refrigeration equipment to Joe's Pizza, and there's 3 in Chicago and 3 in Detroit, that's not what I do. Mine's more of an enterprise sales approach. It's usually services or tech companies that I help, and it's a little more complex sale, and it's usually not a $20 a month thing, because you're gonna spend $5,000 to $6,000 a month on hiring an SDR. I say, hey, listen, hire an expert instead, who's going to do everything for you and put it in a wrap in a bow, and have it connect to your HubSpot or LinkedIn so that you can monitor all the data as well.
Now, when you're working with people, how quickly do they see results? Is this something that takes 6 months to a year to get kind of momentum, or is it something that if you do this right, you're going to see results pretty rapidly?
Well, the first month you need to warm up the IP address and the LinkedIn profile. You're not going to pretty much do full throttle, but you can go pretty half throttle to 3/4 throttle in the first month. And then month 2, 3, and 4, and 5, then you're going full throttle. So I say give it at least 3 to 4 months because you wouldn't hire an SDR or a lead gen person internally and say you got a month or 2 months and then probably going to fire you if you don't have this. Because my KPIs are, listen, you can hire someone to do this or you can hire me and I can send out this volume and it's a joint partnership. You know what I'm doing. I know what you're doing and we're all on the same page. So it's usually at least 3 to 4 months. Sales takes time. Momentum pipe takes time. If you don't have a brand, that's definitely a challenge as well. A lot of the companies I work with, no one knows who they are yet because they're a startup.
Now, do you use LinkedIn as kind of the top of the funnel, and then once somebody's connected and then interacted a bit, then you move them off of LinkedIn into email?
No, it's a 1-2 punch. It's email and LinkedIn at the same time, and just get them in multiple paths so they can communicate. The more salespeople or SDRs that I can automate their LinkedIn, that's always good because there is a limit about how many we could send out a day. And then, like I said, the roundtables is more of an approach, just to kind of a thought leadership approach. So we use LinkedIn and email to drive people to those events.
So you mentioned a variety of companies that you've helped, the types of companies. If you had one kind of group, is it startups? Are they technology? You mentioned B2B. It has to be a sale that obviously makes sense. So it can't be a $10 sale necessarily. But right. So professional services, I would imagine, would benefit from this. What about like some franchisors trying to get more franchisees? Do you work in that space at all?
Yeah, that's a little bit harder. I mean, it's hard to find people that own franchises. First of all, I've worked for a Tex company where we had Subways and Jamba Juice, and there's folks that have like 20 Jamba Juices and 10 Subways, and they're trying to find people that own that. They're hidden. The people that are visible on LinkedIn are usually the ones that we want to help because we know that they're not trying to hide from folks or not be contacted. So it's services, it's software. It's usually not hardware like mixers. That's going to be a good fit. It's really things that are more unique. The more unique the product and solution and the pain it solves, the better the approach. I've helped companies that just do web design, and they had one client and there were 2 guys, and they had no branding. So that wasn't easy, and that wasn't something that was very successful. But if you have something unique, you have something that has the solving a pain, I amplify that. If you have something that's okay and it's not really that exciting and not many people want it, then I amplify that, and I try to help, but I can only amplify what's good or what's bad from your company.
So, what do you need more of? How can we help you?
For me, I do really well because I'm a lead gen company, so I produce my own leads. But obviously, working with you on your audience, and we're helping some of the companies that you work with, it would be great. And just, if anything, just networking. I just like to network and go to events, and I do a lot of shows, whether it be blogs or radio. So I'm here to help.
So okay, let's give some advice. So what's some low-hanging fruit that anybody could do right now to generate a lead this week or next week?
I would say get Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. That's not necessarily automation, but that will let you really get into who knows who, filter out exactly who you need to go after, and save lists. So that's a good start. There's a platform I use called Linked Helper that takes a lot of studying to kind of figure out how to use it, but that's what I use for LinkedIn, and I could definitely help there as well. But it's some of the stuff you just need someone to help you. It's not something that I can tell you go to that website and start doing it, because you have to teach yourself pretty much. And what do you want to do? Do you want to sell and do your normal job, or do you want to try to figure out every single technology and try to be an expert to everything?
So when they work with you, you're giving them qualified leads that are closer to close.
Yeah, we call them SQLs or MQLs in the space. I mean, I think they're more SQLs because they filtered out what we want to go after. We put some BANT questions in the calendar program, like, can you help us prepare for this meeting? What do you want to talk about? What's your decision time process for this? A couple questions that just talk about budget authority, needs, and timing would be nice to ask when you book an appointment, using Calendly or using HubSpot calendars or something like that. So the more you ask, the more you're going to be prepared for the first call. If the first call is someone that you really wanted to talk to, because we just didn't throw an advertisement on some sort of Google search, I think that's a better lead because we targeted that person purposely.
Now, when you're explaining the value to someone, obviously your work can't close the sale. It's up to the client to ultimately sell them whatever it is they do. How do you kind of explain that to them in a way that they don't kind of blame you for their lack of sales?
Well, I've been selling for 25 years. I did Challenger, Ecovis training, Dale Carnegie. So I try to help them as much as I can as a consultant, but that's not really what's repeatable and scalable in my process. It's more the lead gen. So they should have some sort of sales acumen to basically close a deal once they do a demo or discovery call with them. So I don't necessarily get into that because I don't find that I have unlimited time as Michael Falato. So mine's more of a repeatable, scalable top of funnel. Let me get them through the door, and then we make sure that's the right fit. And then you build, the person that's the client, they build a relationship with that person by asking them discovery questions. And hopefully they get to a proposal. My job is more just to get them through the door. Top of funnel.
Right, but when they're kind of discerning if this is working or not, are they going by, wow, you gave me 10 people to talk to, or are they going, I sold 3 people something?
Yeah, it's mostly when they're dealing with me, I let them know where I stop and where I start. So it's usually how many meetings do I book and how many outreach do I do. And realistically, I try to explain to them, I'm FedEx, I'm UPS. I'm delivering the messages that you and I both agreed on, that the filters you and I both agreed on. Either you can do this yourself or you can hire me. I'd be glad to help you. But just realize that this was a joint decision on the process, and that my advice was this and your advice was that. But we pushed it out. We got these meetings, and it's really more of I'm an automation expert more than just, hey, what's the KPI of the meetings? Obviously, that's what they're going to judge if they continue with me. But it's also branding as well. So they have to realize that this ain't just meetings.
Now, when you're working with these folks and they're getting the results, has there been a story you can share that, and don't name the name of the company, but one in which you kind of blew them away, or you surprised yourself, or was more rewarding?
Yeah, I would say the company that I was helping, that was an IT staffing company, boots on the ground IT support. I took them from $250K to $2.8 million in a year. And they were able to raise a Series A because of that. I also worked with another company that is a software SaaS company, and they've been with me over a year, and they brought in some big clients. Also, another client in LA, I got them meetings with Guess, Home Depot. They go after brands, TikTok, Netflix, stuff like that. So I've have a pretty big background helping people. In my past, I've also sold to AT&T, NFL, worked in sports marketing. I have a pretty big background as far as knock down the door, get someone in there, whether it's me or someone else, and then the magic's up to that person.
So if somebody wants to learn more, what's the website? What's the best way to talk to you or somebody on the team?
Yeah, it's fullthrottlefalatolids.com. My phone number is 512-639-3375. But everything's basically on the website. And I'll be glad to set up a discovery call to see if there's a fit.
Good stuff, man. Thanks so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate your time.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on High Velocity Radio.